Good morning, beauties. Good morning, good morning. I thought it would be nice for us to meet at a different time of day. I don't think I've ever done a morning video with all of you loves. So, namaste and lakesha lakin. Welcome to the beautiful beginning of a brand new day. It's so lovely to be with you all here in this gloriousness of beingness. So, the other day I did a little video in honor of Beltane, which is an invitation to all of we to consciously plant seeds of our intentions for that which we are seeking, inviting, welcoming into manifest beingness into our lives. Essentially, the planting of our gardens, so that we have, when we are harvesting, which generally is under the harvest moon of September, we have the abundance of a harvest of that which we desire to be. And in speaking to that and our abilities to create as the human beings that we are, the power that each of we contains within ourselves to direct the energy flow that is within this physical vessel as per our desires, was spoken to, as was the infinite possibilities that may arise when we do so, and keeping that openness, understanding that we might be looking for something very specific and get something very different, but still something that would align us with the feelings that we had sent forth regarding what it is that we are welcoming in. And one of the ways that we live a life that we love to be living, which ultimately, for the majority of we, as spoken to in the last video, is a life of bliss. However that might manifest within the specificities of our life. And so today I want to focus on one of the ways, and it's probably probably the biggest. There are so many tools and resources and steps along our pathway to being love, beginning with understanding what that means, that there is a difference between being love and being fear, and then getting to know what the voice of love is. But this is likely what I shall share with you today, the ultimate end game, if you will, of living a life that we love to be living and loving the life that we are living, which ultimately the answer is to be love. So if you will accept my invitation to journey with me this morning, on behalf of the voice of love, am I here with you today, Rev Rhonda Lipstein, and thank you from the depths of love's gratitude for joining me here today. And I will do my best to check in on you loves through Facebook and see if any of you have any questions or comments while we are journeying here together today. So there's a quote by Muji that I put, only when a human being becomes empty of ego does it become a vessel of the manifestation of the Supreme. And there's a lot of quotes from those whom we regard as masters, gurus, and the like, speaking to selflessness, speaking to releasing oneself of the ego, which I have a bit of an issue with that terminology, as it really was not supposed to be used for that purpose, but it's been vilified, and I don't think it's healthy that we vilify our personalities. It's walking around hating self, which is really not what any of this is about. Indeed, what I would like to suggest is to find for each of we the divine delicate balance, where that fear of losing self is eradicated, as is the vilification, the making the self, the ego, so horrible, also taken away, eradicated. There is no positive potential that I see in this trend of we to hate on the ego. It's like hating a body part. I'm going to hate my arm, but it's part of me. So I'm now stuck with something that is stuck to me that I'm hating. That doesn't work. So let's make it work. Let's make it easier. You know, all of these gurus and masters are trying so desperately to share the love's wisdom that comes streaming through them with we, to make it easier. And we just make things so much more complicated because there's confusion, there's lack of clarity. Understandably, we live in a society that for thousands upon thousands of years has proliferated a consciousness paradigm, a way of thinking, of interacting, of being, that is through fear and not through what I call namaste love. So it is understandable, the confusion that we can see through. And hopefully today we can find a way to make that confusion a little bit less, and the invitation to embrace love's grace a little bit more inviting and a little bit easier for us even to just ponder stepping into and allowing ourselves to become. Because ultimately the invitation is an invitation to become love. And to become love is, as some would say, to release the ego, to be selfless, which can be very terrifying. I don't want to give up myself. This is who I am. I'm here in the now, in this individuated beingness. I'm not floating or flying around like some superhero or god, even though I'm being told that I am a manifestation of the Supreme. I am the Supreme. I am God, Goddess. It can screw with the brain a little bit, with the mind, yes? Yes, for those of you who are hearing me saying certain words, like screwing with, I am an irreverent reverend. So if I happen to swear at any point, curse, please receive it as it is intended, as an inflection, as a point of making a point. I can't think of the word right now, unfortunately. So the question is, how do we become one with being love and manifest a life that we love to be living? How do we come to terms with being selfless whilst ensuring that we are providing for the self? How do we love life but give up the ego. How does that happen? So one of the things that we're taught is that we need to do certain things in certain ways to achieve success, which takes us out of our association, identification, feeling of our intuition. There's a quote, many quotes actually, by Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, speaking to going with the flow, to letting go and trusting in the universe, in the vortex, in the one stream to which we are all a part. And you can either go downstream and go with the flow, or try and paddle up against the stream. When you go with the flow, when you follow your intuition, life seems to magically manifest your desires. When you go against the flow, it's a lot of hard work, and it can take a very long time to get things going. And we can come up against a lot of opportunities for growth, opportunities to face the ego or to face fears, which is why we're not listening to our intuition, because we are listening to fear-based instructions that people have disguised as wisdom, and therefore going against the grain. So ego really, in the way that it's used that I don't like, is fear, right? So let's just get to the end game and call it what it is. So as we know, as a species, I'm just going to stick with humans right now, as opposed to the rest of existence. Our optimal states of homeostasis, when we are the healthiest, is when we are aligned with love. When we are living life by being love, as opposed to living life by being fear. Fear causes stress, stress causes disease, disease causes death, suffering, so on and so forth. Being love, even if there is death, it is embraced lovingly, and it is not seen torturously or in any other ways. It's a completely different experience of life. So the ultimate goal is to be love. So how do we be love? I know that was not necessarily grammatically English-wise correct, but that is the question. How do we be love? Being love. How are we being love? Which brings us back to, how can I be me and be love? Because being love essentially is what one would say, as Muji spoke to, the supreme. Claiming your godliness, your goddessness. And how do we do that? As I am just a little me, how can I be a goddess? And how do we come to terms with and find the divine delicate balance of being the individuated me and not getting sucked in or lost within the fear of losing me, to own my divinity, that I may trust in my intuition as opposed to what I'm told I need to be doing and da-da-da, and allow for the supreme, the divine, the source, love to stream through me and live the life that I love to be. Thankfully, I've been having this experience more and more lately, so not only am I able to give you that which comes through me, but personally I'm able to share, which is so gorgeous. So let us go there now. You do not have to give up your me. Being love begins with your me. each of we is a me. So my me, I'm going to try and make this as easy as I can, was born into this world June 7th, 1970, and given the name Rhonda Sheryl Lipstein. It's my name. That's my me. Me, the me that you see. Everybody has a me, and the first way that we be love is that we start to take care of our me. We start to see our me lovingly, completely lovingly. For how can I look upon you without judgment if I cannot look upon me without judgment? For you are my mirror, as I am yours. And so when I look upon you, I am looking upon you as a mirrored reflection of me. And I can get into this at a different time. The mirror is not exactitudes. I'm not looking at you and seeing my exactness, but I am looking at you through my perception of how I look upon the world, including how I look upon me. The way that we look out into the world starts with how we look at ourselves, or the easiest way to navigate and shift and change how we look out into the world is to look at the one thing that we are looking at the most, that we are around the most, that we know the most intimately, one would hope, which is the self. Does that make sense? So using your me is just an easy pathway, because it's the one that you're with the most intimately, to transcending through the fears that we are weighted down by, that we may be released thereof and be love. With me so far? So how can I look at my me? How can I look at Rev Ronnie lovingly, completely, when there's so much of me, when I'm looking at me from my me perspective, from my little me perspective, that isn't right according to society and what I've been taught. There's a lot of me that just ain't living up to the standards. There's parts of me that I don't necessarily like as much as other parts. And that's not being very loving if I'm judging and I'm looking down on me. How do I get out of that cycle? You know, when we get depressed or angry and we get stuck in something and it's because we're looking at our lives and seeing all the things that aren't good enough, that are less than. We are judging ourselves. We aren't seeing the divinity, the gift that our me is to this world. We're saying, yeah, you're a gift here, but you're not living up to this, and you're not doing that, and this isn't good enough, and that isn't, and oh my gosh, and there's so much. And how do we get out of that? We have to step out of the self, the selflessness, the selflessness. But that causes an enormous fear because I don't want to give up myself. What do you mean? I have to submerge myself and lose myself into the one that is all. And then what happens to my me? Where does Rhonda go? I don't want to lose me. I'm the only me that I've got right now in this incarnated experience. You don't have to lose you. You don't have to lose you. Let's take a moment. We don't have to lose ourselves to align with the divine and to be love. It's one of the biggest fears, I think. It was one of my biggest discomforts in aligning with the divine for decades. And it's such a relief to know that you don't have to lose you. So let's take a moment and just, yay, don't have to lose me. No. What happens is that, again, coming back a little bit, let's step back. The best way to be love is to start with yourself and to be loving of you, appreciate you, really, really like, oh my gosh, thank you for being. And that feels wonky to a lot of people. It's immediately there's feelings of, oh, what pomposity. Oh, look at you. Don't you think you're so amazing? It is not that. It is not an aggressive place, an arrogant place that we come from when we are being love. That is not being love. That's being fear. You know, oh, I have to be so amazing. Look at me. Oh. Because we're actually so afraid and insecure that's why people do that. It's not because they're actually feeling amazing. It's because they're feeling so small. So authentic being love is not a pomposity of aggressiveness and arrogance. It is reverence. It is humbled honor. It is gratitude beyond gratitude and namaste love, unconditional love. Like I can cry right now. Because to be love authentically is to embrace and receive love holistically for your little me. So how do we do that? I know it is that huge, right? The arrogance, there is no arrogance. Childlike joy, abandonment of fear, and just, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. But arrogance, no. Oh my gosh, no. How do we nurture and take care of our little me, that we may be who we are here to be, which is a vessel for namaste love? Is that we recognize as we are all one. And it doesn't really make a difference if you want to see the one as God, goddess, the divine masculine and the divine feminine in physical form, God, goddess, source, energy. You want to give it other names like the Shekhinah, which is the divine feminine, who is seen, it's just another way of explaining how we get the spark of creation, which is the divine masculine or the Elohim. There's so many labels and names for this. It doesn't matter. Consciousness is another one. Existence. I mean, we can get like so religious and then so scientific. It's all the same. It's all the same. There is an infinite aspect to each of us that we all know exists beyond the physical body. If I chopped off parts of my body, my consciousness would still be my consciousness. When people have near-death experiences and they come back, it was not the physical body that they are speaking to when they are speaking about their consciousness roaming and remembering everything. The consciousness is seeing the doctors working, or they go through the halls of the hospital and then come back into the body once they've been brought back to life and share these experiences. The body is the body, but the consciousness, which is infinite, is infinite. It goes beyond the body. We all know this in many different ways. You go to sleep and you dream at night. You wake up. What the hell? Where did you go? Who were you? What are you? Where are you when you are in the body? Where are you? You can't isolate. So there is that infinite part of us. So I don't care what you want to label it, but that's what we're speaking to. I like to call it love. Namaste love. It works for me. Or mama love also of recently, but that personification. Can get tricky. So let's stick to namaste love. When we align with the divine, with Namaste Love, ourselves, when we recognize, when we own that our me is a reflection, a projection, a vessel. I think Muji actually uses that term. Yes, a vessel in the quote that is above this video. A vessel for Namaste Love to come through and to experience itself, consciousness, being love, in this way, in this physical body, on this earth school, in this experience of consciousness as only it can be experienced upon our earth school. Consciousness experienced on the moon is very different than consciousness experienced through a physical body on this earth school, as it is very different experienced in an ant or an antelope or a crystal or any other means of manifestation that consciousness has been known to make itself in. We know of all the ways that we know of in our Milky Way galaxy. Infinite are the ways, but each of we is a way by which consciousness, by which Namaste Love may experience being. So, if I can take my me, my little me, my Rhonda Sheryl Lipstein, and just put her here for a second, and then be my big me, which is we, which is you, which is what I call our I. The one, which is everything. So we're just going to call that Namaste Love. And by everything, I'm talking about not just our Milky Way galaxy or our Earth school and everything that's here. There are 7 known universes beyond ours. And then who the hell knows what else is out there? What is in infinity? But that's the all to which I am speaking, that we are all one with infinity. Energy, energy, energy is everything and everywhere, and no end, no beginning. It is not born and it cannot die. It's just completely, continuously, consistently transmuting. That is who we are, essentially, energy. We have 100 trillion cells in these physical bodies, made up of protons and neutrons, positive and negative electrical pulses, which allow us to be what is perceived to be these dense physical forms, but really are energy, infinity, which we all are. So when we align ourselves with that part of us, the big me, that is everything, you don't have to give up the little me, the big me that doesn't need this body. Now align with that, and I call that Namaste Love. You can call it energy, but remember when I was crying a little bit before? Because that love, complete, unconditional, agape, Namaste Love, loves Rhonda Sheryl Lipstein the way it loves you, with complete holisticness. Thoroughly, totally are we loved. With all of our yuckiness too. Everything. Because we are giving an opportunity for love to experience being in this way. There is so much reverence. There is so much gratitude. And when we can be love, when we can align ourselves with that level of consciousness, and now look at our little me from that perspective of, I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to make your life as wonderful as I can. Suddenly, we are being the best parent to our little me that we can be by being more loving. And we start to align our little me more and more, our consciousness, with love. And so trying to do the things that we're supposed to do as society tells us we're supposed to do become second place to listening to our intuition, to our voice of love, namaste love, unconditional love, the love, not the voice of, I'm trying to be loving here and tell you, you better go out and make some money or you ain't gonna have da-da-da. It's our voice of, what are you feeling inspired to do right now? Because the inspiration that you are feeling is coming from me, your voice of love, divinity, source energy, whatever you want to call it. But when you start to trust that love is coming through you, you start to trust in you. When you start to trust in you, you start to do things that you actually want to be doing. And you start going with the flow. And life starts manifesting in greater ease the things that you are enjoying, living, and being. So we remove the little me, and we don't remove it. We put her or him to the side, or they, or we, or he, or she, however you want to describe your me. We just put them here for a moment, and we allow the reality of who our bigger me is to come through, to embrace our little me. So we don't give up either one. We merge them together, even though there is an understanding that our little me is but one reflection of the bigger me to which we are all one. Kind of like, and this is the gorgeous thing about existence, about namaste love. He, she, they, we, it, all, whatever, gives us all the proof that we need. So each of us is one human physical body, but how are we that one human physical body? We have 80 to 100 trillion cells, individual cells inside of our body. Trillion that make us this one me that is operating all of this. But we need all of the little cells or we won't be. Right? If your brain cells start dying off, you can't think well. If your heart cells start dying off, the heart's not beating well. If this cells start dying, the blood cells, if this cells, you need them. You need them all because they're all you. They're all you. We are all love. And love is us. We're not giving anything up. It's just that each of us is our own unique reflection of love. And so then taking care of ourselves becomes easier when we recognize that it's love who is asking us to give love the opportunity to experience it, her, his self. And we start to have more reverence and appreciation for how hard our little me is trying and how wonderful our little me is being, as opposed to coming from a place of arrogance or pomposity. It is coming from a place of reverence instead. And we are then positioned with greater strength to provide the care and nurturing that is required for our little me's to feel loved and appreciated, which is how we live by being love instead of being fear. Because if we don't feel loved and appreciated for who we are, we feel less than, not enough, we start scratching, doggy paddling to try and stay alive. We're trying to survive instead of living our lives and thriving through love. So, this is how we have it all. This is how you get to be your little me, as well as being egoless, selfless, by being the big me that is our I, which is Namaste Love or energy, whatever you want to call it. And thus, love the life that we are living and live the life that we are loving. Because no matter what comes our way, when we are being love, we see it as a gift, as an opportunity, as beauty. For what would love bring to us except what we are going to enjoy, except what is for our highest happiness? Because we start trusting and letting go and stop looking for the negatives. Even in negative situations, we actually start seeing that what we thought was a negative is actually a positive, because we are more and more aligning with love. Everything starts to be more loving, because we're loving ourselves, we're loving our little me's, because we're being love, we're being our big me. Do you see? And that I feel might be enough for our trip down Clarity Lane, hopefully, to alleviate some confusion and welcome in greater clarity, that we may welcome in greater bliss, that we may rise to be the authenticity of our divinity and truly enjoy the gift that is this experience that we call being human, which really is being love. On that note, bliss kisses to all of you beautiful Earth Angels divine. Thank you for being. And on behalf of our I, thank you, sweet, beautiful little me, for letting me come through you to be and to experience this reality and to play in this dimension of physicality with the creative abilities that we have here, the magic of miraculousness and marvelousness that exists in this plane of me, of Namaste Love. In Lakesha Lakin, to your highest happiness, to your experience of your little me's fabulous, in every now, always, in ease and comfort and sweetness and reverence and gratitude, and always embraced in the grace of your big me, are we, of Namaste Love. Blessed